welcome to our Magic 2015 core set review. It's a set review.
It is a set review because it's that good of a set.
Oh my God, it's so good. You know how good this set is? It's like the best thing since M10. Like Forsyth decides to
M11, sir. I liked M11 a lot.
M11 was very good. It was the Titans. They showed up, absolutely. But this one is just like packed full of amazing stuff, super cool cards, awesome gameplay. I'm so excited about this thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
When I saw this set, I started thinking of like sets that Wizards produces, like one for the new players, one for the old players. And this is definitely one for like, for players that just want to like try to figure out cool things and how to make everything work. Everything's got a triggered ability and that isn't a come into play ability or an activated ability. Like we don't have to worry about players just putting things into play and doing what they do. Like you actually have to figure things out and build decks now.
There's themes and there's like subtle stuff that's going on and like
there's beehives.
There's beehives.
Actual beehives.
Oh my God, it's so good. We'll get to it soon.
Actually in 4 days.
Eventually. Ajani Steadfast is first. Amazing Mythic, terrific Planeswalker. Not going to set any records. We now have 3 Ajanis in Standard, so that's the thing. That's a lot of Ajanis.
That's a lot of Ajanis. I actually, like, when I saw this, I was just like, come on, Wizards, like, let's get new ones, like, maybe even a second Elspeth, like, I mean, Ajani, I understand, is part of the whole storyline, but, like, I want to play with my walkers. Like, give us the ability to play, like, super friend decks, not just keep giving us the same walker that just legends each other out.
I mean, they just had to, they wanted to kill Elspeth.
That's true. I don't know why.
I heard from a small birdie that maybe this card started out as Elspeth carrying Ajani's axe.
Ooh. I've watched The Death of Superman. I know how these things work. She'll be back.
Of course she will. But regardless, they still kind of kill her or whatever. Ajani Steadfast, now, the thing is going to be nutty and limited. It's going to pump your whole team. It's going to make this one creature a ridiculous monster. It's what Mythics want to be.
Yes.
Unlimited, like super cool and awesome and great.
Yeah, and I think that this card is going to see a lot of constructed play too. Right away I didn't, mostly because it looked like a nerfed version of the first Ajani for the creatures, and being able to put counters on Planeswalkers didn't seem that great. But the more I thought about it, the more this card just works perfect with Elspeth, Sun's Champion. And I want to build a deck with Elvish Mystics and Caryatids and Coursers and Voices, and just that shell of these 2 Planeswalkers, because if you have an Ajani in play, you can go Elspeth, tick Elspeth up, tick Ajani down, and even if they kill the Ajani, next turn another Ajani threatens to go lethal. So every single Elspeth that has 6 loyalty in a deck that has Ajani also, you always have to fear the emblem. And I think that's a big thing for an Elspeth, especially since the tokens don't really matter until they get out of control, especially if you have answers for it, but you don't want to use them right now.
It's a big thing for just basically any decks with Planeswalkers. I'm trying to think of, have they actually add a loyalty counter to Planeswalkers before?
No, this is definitely the first card.
This is the first one. So now this guy just kind of brings this weird dynamic of if he draws an Ajani, I'm just dead or whatever from a Kiora emblem or an Elspeth emblem or whatever, because this guy sort of accelerates you past. It's also another reason people are getting excited about Jace the Living Guild pack, which we'll get to later. But this guy is all about the possibilities, and the Super Friends aspect of this guy is not to be underestimated.
No, I mean, it's not going to be as dominating as the original Super Friends because all those Planeswalkers protected themselves too. But I definitely think that this card works great in a shell with a bunch of creatures and Elspeths. And I think like a Selesnya, maybe splashing another color deck is going to be very good for the summer at least. But then after rotation, it's going to be out of control because all the cards that I want to play with do not rotate. So
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm all right. Ajani, just amazing, constructed, limited, all-star, sweet card to start out with. Into his Pridemate, who is a monster in limited. There's like a million different ways to gain life in this set. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a million ways to lose life, to gain life. Life is just a theme in Magic now.
It really is, and they really pushed it in this set.
I really like this card. It's not as great as Archangel of Thune, which is deserving, but
it's not as great as the 5-mana Mythic Angel. Right.
Yes, but it doesn't have any of the Soul Sisters in Standard right now. So I'm hoping that there something in Cons comes out that makes this card a lot better.
Sure.
Because this used to be a standard playable card.
Yeah.
Like back in its first printing. Like
there for that short window of time when there was the Soul Sisters Ajani's Pridemate stuff, the first Ajani, like all these things works together, which is super cool, and this guy Unlimited is basically just like uncuttable. He's like just He's unbelievably sweet.
You just always play bears. I always
Bears
play
with upside
Yes.
are playable every time. Just every time.
And you always attack with them because they don't know what you got.
Yeah. They're like,
You could convoke, gain 8 life. Oh wait, we got to save the best for last. Like we got to wait on that one.
Got a hold on that one. But in constructed, we got some possibilities. It's going to need a shell.
It's going to need a shell. It's probably going to start with Path to Bravery.
Okay.
Like,
very nice.
At least for the summer. I mean, it has to, right? It has to
sure.
start with that card.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have your Mondo combos, your 2 drops and your 3 drops. I'll take it. But, for limited, this guy is like, I'll just take every copy ever. Thanks much. Bye.
Oh, for sure.
Guy's great. Avacyn, Guardian Angel, talking about a limited bomb.
Yeah, this card is a great bomb. So the one thing, when I come to work, you guys don't get to see this, but every once in a while, Evan will blow my mind with the lore of Magic. Just blow my mind. Like, I'll just come in to make a versus video, and I'm just standing there talking to Evan while we're getting things set up, and he just like blows my mind. And one of them was with Avacyn about the halos and how she wore it, and all the other ones wore it.
Yeah, all the angels on the plane of Innistrad, they wear the halo across their eyes because they are ashamed.
Yeah.
Because they are ashamed of seeing the darkness that is now taking over the land. And only the strongest angels, whether it's Avacyn or whether it's Iona, are the ones that didn't have the halo over their eyes because they were strong enough to be fighting against the evil that existed. So that to me is like, super cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was blown away, and like, it was really cool lore. And then when I saw the card, I looked for the halo, and I'm like, where'd it go? Why doesn't she have it? And I was like mad. I was just like, what is Wizards doing? Like, this was a great storyline. Where'd it go?
Sure.
So now she's super ashamed.
Well, I don't know about that. I know that like her spear is a big thing, and the symbol of Avacyn's a big thing, and regardless of the lore, the actual card, the devotion is there. The 5/4 flying vigilance is a huge, basically just a monster kind of dragon there. It's protecting your other guys. It's protecting you. Like, just wow, this card is ridiculous in limited and probably really sweet in like commanders. It's definitely going to be really sweet in a multiplayer environment where you're able to prevent all damage that would be dealt to another target creature, any target creature, and that's when you get the politics involved.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't see it in standard.
I don't see it now, not with Lifebane around, but like it's a 5/4 vigilance flying creature, and just because it doesn't have lifelink and it's not as good as Baneslayer in that regard, it is a 5/4 vigilance for 5 that like could potentially be good post rotation. Like, a lot of the removal, like if you think about it, especially the black removal, either costs 3 mana like Hero's Downfall, but like Doomblade's gone. Now we'll get to that, but that's a big indicator for what Magic's going to look like after rotation.
Sure.
Like there's no ultimate price, there's no Doomblade, there's no 2 mana removal spell right now that can kill this. So it is a 5/4 vigilance creature, which is pretty big. Also, the cool thing about this card is this is our first card that really breaks the mold of core sets. Because this is the core set that's just jamming all of the worlds together.
It really is. It's kind of like the time spirally core set at this point where, you got some stuff from Innistrad and you got some stuff from, at this point, all the souls, coming from all the different planes. And, there was a point where I think it was Forsyth who was talking about, core sets are cool when they're pared down, when they're, they're simple and they're straightforward and whatever. But just because you got 1/1s versus 2/2s doesn't make that awesome. You know what I mean? When you're trying to explain why is Magic awesome, and you go, look, here's a core set everyone can get into, and you're like, all right, that's a bear and that's a hill giant, and you're like, yeah, but bears and hill giants, like that's not as cool as like a freaking awesome angel that does awesome things, who has this great lore behind it, who's attached to this other block that people love. Like that's why a lot of these things kind of come together. If this was just some other angel and not Avacyn, it wouldn't be as interesting, it wouldn't be as cool or as exciting. And all of these cards kind of have a lot of that aspect.
Oh yeah, they definitely like made it for everyone. Like they worded all the cards, they like changed how they word a lot of them that just make them simple and they're just amazing. We'll get to a lot of them. I'll tell you about all of them. Every time I see how they change the wording on something to make it just better for new players, but also just should have been how they started them, I was really happy. But just being able to see a lot of the old sets, it just, it's so nostalgic as well as it's new Magic cards. It's not going to be a boring set to play with.
Absolutely. And this girl got tons of potential and is unbelievably awesome and limited. Battle Mastery,
Yeah.
our first kind of, which is okay because, this card still has potential when you got a big monster, but you're also kind of setting yourself up for a 2-for-1. This is a card that always, for me, looked a lot better than it actually played.
Yeah, it's... They did another thing in the set, just like in Theros Block, where they wanted to make enchant creatures matter, and they gave us a Stoneforge Mystic-esque common, which makes cards like this that look uncommon fine. Now, I wouldn't want this to be common with a card like that in a set anyway, because if you just get a creature out of the deal that goes and searches up an enchantment or enchant creature, we're going to need them to exist in the format to be good and limited.
Sure.
So I think that this card doesn't seem like an uncommon, but it should be an uncommon just because that card exists.
Right.
And I think, if you're tutoring it up, that means it's important right now. And, if you're going to kill them with something double striking next turn, this will see more limited play than it would have like any other set because of that card. I can't remember the name, but we'll get to it.
We'll get to it, but certainly the ability to sort of tutor for this makes it better than just your average, enchantment.
But don't play it in constructed.
Oh Lord, no.
Yeah, there's rares and mythics at this mana cost that have double strike on their own.
Now, Boonweaver Giant, there is there's the Ravnica Ember something mage, the same one that tutors up, or a touch mage, or a touch mage was from Ravnica. It was less mana, it had less power and toughness, but basically did the exact same thing.
It didn't go from your hand or graveyard, did it? I thought it just went from your library.
It went from your library attached to it,
yeah.
Or it went to your hand or something if it couldn't.
Yeah.
Something like that. But regardless, the Boonweaver Giant, it kind of looks really sexy, but 7 mana is a lot, like a whole bunch. And if you've got the Spectre Ward, which we'll get to later, I think like you kind of have to, particularly in Sealed, where this gets a lot better because the format's a little bit slower. But this isn't quite the like, oh my god, amazing tutorable thing that it kind of can appear to be because it's so expensive.
It is very expensive. In that format, also 6 mana wasn't as much because of the Karoo lands and everyone was like building their mana up in the first turns.
Sure.
And now with Magic's just like jam all the time.
Right. Have to play on the curve and blah blah blah. And your opponent goes 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. Like this thing is in your hand, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What can pull me back? I mean,
you need 7 cards. You start with 7 cards, and you draw only 1 a turn. So you need 7 cards in play to even cast this. So it's not going to come down usually when you have 14 cards. So it's probably not even going to come down on turn 7 and limited.
Right.
I think it's fine. But it does have a very powerful effect, and it depends on what your deck does have. And if it becomes a bomb on its own because of a certain enchantment in your deck, like you can grab it from your hand or in your graveyard. So it is card advantage.
Absolutely. There's the red enchantment that lets the creature tap to deal its power to target creature player. That card's insane with this, obviously. So there are, in Spectral Ward, like I talked about earlier, we'll get to. There are insane enchantments that this guy can go find. Don't get me wrong, but there's also. It's also a little awkward that, you're going to have a Boonweaver Giant and you're like, if I could just get this enchantment and put it on my flyer, I would kill him right now.
Yeah.
And I have to attach it to this guy, Like, that's going to be a feeling that you may get. And that's not necessarily terrible, but it's a thing where you're just like, if I could just put this in my hand, I would have been happier about it. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things you'll probably end up with. But, how do you, like in draft, it feels almost like it's just almost unplayable.
It depends
on the speed of the format.
Yeah, we haven't played the format yet, and I think that the format isn't going to be as fast as that. The creatures don't seem that crazy. Like, it's a lot of Windrakes are like the most aggressive creatures, and Grizzly Bears. So
it does seem more aggressive than M14, which was just like the slowest thing ever.
Well, what do you mean more aggressive? Like
blue was the best color, not close.
No creature blue was the best deck, not close.
Yeah.
Like you just didn't have a creature in your deck.
Just opportunity all the time.
Yeah, you played a couple of the 2-3 flashes just to get them.
Yeah.
And that's all you had. So yeah, it's a little faster than Elixir Control Opportunity.
But
I have 4 cancels. My deck is amazing.
Woo, it was. So yeah, not great. Constructed and limited. Sealed, you're probably going to need some sort of bomby enchantment thing to go.
Oh yeah, you do have to have something to go along with them.
Right. You can't just play him as a 7-mana 4/4, of course, but you can't just say, well, this battle mastery will get me all the way. But you have something a little bit bigger, better. It can do good things.
Yeah.
Congregate.
We needed some more lifelink or life gain.
Life gain. Don't play this.
It was good in M14 because of how the format was so slow. Like, I didn't even mind playing it in Blue-White Control X, but it depends on what this format's like. You need a ton of card advantage. And sure, we have Divination, we have Jace's Ingenuity. We do not have Elixir in this format.
Right.
We don't even have any of the cards that, comboed with it. Whenever you gain 4 put an Angel into play.
Sure.
So this is a good sideboard card. It does blow out a lot of players because it's like a double fog sometimes. Like, the boards get really big and they attacked for lethal and you gain twice, so now you can attack them to half-life and now they can't attack back.
It's basically a sideboard limited card at best. Is how
That's
I put it.
exactly what I was trying to say, but way more long-winded.
With so many more words. Constricting Sliver. I need an Oblivion Ring Sliver in my life. I needed it.
This card is really strong.
I mean, technically a Faceless Butcher. Okay, fine. But still, this card is awesome and limited. It is great. I can see it as a one-of. I was reading Sam Black's article where he was talking about using Court of Calling and Slivers and just, running this as like the one-ofs and just like, oh, by the way, instant speed.
I have a tough time believing that that's going to ever matter.
Oh, come on.
Okay, for one, it's white, so it can't hit a Storm Retro again. For two, if you're going to cord for a sliver, I'd much rather do the one that makes all my slivers indestructible.
Well, yeah, the Sliver Hive Lord guy.
And if you have that in play, we don't need nothing.
I understand. I'm just saying a Faceless Butcher is a Faceless Butcher, and it's a fine dude. This guy is going to be great and limited. I don't know about Constructed either. I'm just saying slivers feel like a thing while we have all the slivers from the last core set, all the slivers from this one. There's got the new land, all that stuff.
The land in limited seems so bonkers when you have like a Constructing Sliver and you have it in play and you're just like, make a sliver, kill that, make a sliver, kill that.
Oh my God.
It's so broken. Like the land making slivers with the come into play abilities are busted beyond belief.
Jeez, that's so good. That just feels so good. You just want that feeling in your life.
Yes, until they wrath and then all your stuff comes back.
No, unless it was tokens.
That's true.
There's a lot of token makers in the set, which we will get to. Now, Dauntless River Marshal. I like thinking of these as like gold cards, I think that this is, you need to play it with blue. And when you play it with blue, it's a 2-mana 3/2 with upside. Good on turn 2, good on turn 10. Yep. I mean, like, it's just fantastic. It's like a Johnny's Pride Mate. You can't play enough of these if you're blue-white.
Yep.
And, and if you're not, then at that point it just becomes sort of a 2-1
Yeah, they can,
guy.
They can get into your deck if you need some like quicker creatures or sideboard option. Like you can take one of these late if there's no blue-white player at the table, and you just find one super late, and you're green-white, but you might need to board into another like 2-drop. Like it's a fine sideboard option just to lower your curve. The cool thing about this cycle that I didn't get until like the 5th time I looked through the set was that this cycle all the creatures cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing about them. Yeah, they all have a different coordinate. Yep.
That's super cool. So yeah, there's no doubt this guy is like 100% the best thing in blue-white for limited play. I mean, when you're not blue, it could just be a bear.
Well, yeah, and especially in core set limited, mana sinks are very powerful, especially ones that are manipulating your opponent's side of the board. So being able to tap down their biggest creature, or late in the game, like when you're both playing draw go, and or you both have creatures and you just have no more resources, even if you draw land, that's going to get you to another activation of this.
Right.
So every resource at that point matters because you have this mana sink. So these abilities do look like they cost a lot. 4 mana tap creature seems like a ton, but when you get to turn 12 in a really long game, that's going to help you win.
Absolutely. I was going to say, like, I think we've been playing so long, we know it's not that much.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, man, 4 mana, one dude? I'm like, no, 4 mana at the end of their turn.
You can't even
tap
tap a Stormbreath Dragon.
Untap, tap your thing, tap their other guy, and then smash their face. Like, that's what this guy can do. Super great.
Yeah, you ever get to 8 mana, that card's scary.
Oh, yeah, big time. Now, Devouring Light, new art.
New art, still the same amazing removal spell. All right, so this is our first Convoke card, and this is our one super good removal spell that has Convoke. I want you guys to realize that when your opponent is tapped out of mana, they are not tapped out anymore, and that is a huge, scary thing about Magic. Like, your opponent has 3 creatures in play, no mana, and you're deciding to attack, they can blow you out now, and it's really scary.
I love that. I think that's like incredible gameplay.
Yes.
That's what makes Convoke so cool. I love the fact where it says your creatures can help cast this spell. I think that's a great line.
Yeah.
I think people understand that. I think that's a really cool way of explaining it. And the fact that you can sort of, again, do things when you're not able to do things makes Magic more interesting. And that's why I am so excited to see it come back.
And it blew me away when I saw Convoke in a core set. I was like, this isn't going to be a normal core set when they're adding this. Because adding Convoke to a limited format adds so much complexity. Like, you never know when your opponent has anything. And we'll get to Gather Courage later, which is the greatest trick on the planet.
And there's the red one with First Strike. It's really good. Like,
they're all amazing. But Devouring Light is just great, especially when you're like maybe like stuck on mana. Like, these are the cards that get you back into games when you like got stuck on 2 mana for too many turns. And then you finally you draw your 3rd mana. You have 2 creatures in play. You play your 3rd creature. They attack. You kill it for free almost.
I mean, the fact that you can be like triplicate spirits, tap all your guys, kill that thing, or they're attacking you with like infinite, and you're like raise the alarm, block, and then tap, convoke, kill that guy. I mean, like there's ways that these types of cards can get you out of situations.
Oh yeah,
and that to me is really exciting.
And huge tempo boost too. So this is a great card. I don't know what the limited format's exactly going to look like, but this is close to one of my first picks.
Yeah, you just played this card because it's amazing. Constructed.
Maybe it never really saw constructed play before, and with like how Magic looks right now, I don't think so. Yeah. Especially not now because of like decks having Voice of Resurgence and Thoughtseize and all these cards that just make it really difficult for these situational removal spells to work.
Right.
And like the decks that want to use Convoke want to be proactive and not reactive, and so this is one of them. Like you just want to keep putting creatures on the board or use removal spells while you're attacking. You never want to tap your creatures for mana. You just want to keep attacking them. So right now, I don't think so.
Yeah, it saw like maybe one of, two of, in like random decks back in the day. That's
and those are block decks.
Right, and that's okay because the cool gameplay, the power this provides in Limited is 100% worth it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Divine Favor, again, as we were noting, lots of ways of gaining life. But Johnny's Pride Mate says, what's up? You know, this is the type of card that it's not super great, but, you know, if you've got enough things to enable it, there's the if you gain life this turn, there's the if, you know, the Johnny's Pride Mate gets counters. There's ways to sort of make this work for you, but at the end of the day, it's kind of
Yeah, I mean, it is but there's not a lot of good removal for a card that gets +1/+3. So, like I said, there's a common that we'll get to later today that searches up in auras, so making this card a lot better if you're just tutoring it up.
Right.
Plus, when you put this on a creature, you gain some life, and like the Doomblade of the set costs 5 mana.
Yeah, that's
and a lot of the other burns or removal spells are power and toughness based. So we have Lightning Strike, and we have Ulcerate. And we have like pump spells that are combat tricks are really big in this format. Right. So giving a creature a big booty is not that bad of a thing.
Yes, Sir Mix-a-Lot would approve.
Yeah, Sir Mix-a-Lot would like this card.
But ultimately, kind of like it's one of those. It's if it works in your limited deck based on what is in it, you're good to go. If not, it's okay to leave these in sideboard or just kind of get them late and pass out this draft. Ephemeral Shields. Sweet.
Yeah, this is another interesting one. We've seen a lot of 2-mana like target creature gains indestructible until end of turn that have been super powerful. Sure, they have boosted power and toughness alongside gaining this ability, but never on a convoke card. And you know, it seems great, especially if you have 2 blockers and you know one of them's going to live. Well, to be fair, you need more than 2 blockers and no mana up. You will need mana or a third creature, but
well, I mean, you know, just the 2 blockers if one of them's white or whatever, you know. But I can imagine you're in a scenario where you double block and then they order them and then you say, okay, I'm going to tap both of them, and the first one gets indestructibility.
Yeah, and you still got to deal lethal. Yeah, you got to deal lethal damage before you get to the other creature.
Exactly, so you just blow them out, basically. Yep. Card is sweet. Now, my question is, it's super sweet and limited, but is it going to make it in constructed?
No.
Come on.
I mean,
just a little.
So there are cards that I look at, especially in core sets, before rotation and after rotation. And right now, with how much mana we have, and we have cards like Boros Charm and Rootborn Defenses to go with all the Selesnya token generators.
So you're saying in a post-Return to Ravnica world, maybe?
No.
Come on,
why do you want to give something
because it's cool, because it's a sweet trick. And because I want to watch it on SCG Live where they're like, does he got it? Oh my God, he's got it, he's tapping his dudes. Oh snap. And everyone's freaking out. That's what I play Magic for.
That's what you watch Magic for.
Okay. That's why I watch it.
Yeah, because I'd rather... We have this thing called...
I want to play it, you know, which is cool too.
Yeah, I maybe. I mean, it's not close. It's really not. I'm trying.
Right,
I'm stretching really
I know.
hard.
You're trying to make me feel better. I know it's not that good. It's fine. But it's going to be sweet and limited. You're going to blow people out left and right with this thing.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be a very... You play at least one copy of this in every deck.
Absolutely. First response. Now, if you get it down early, I think it could work for you.
This is like my new trading post. I'm not going to lie. I've spent already many hours thinking about decks for this card.
Okay.
And yeah, like, this is a powerful effect. Not only can you let's just not talk about us manipulating ourselves. Like,
okay.
Like, you know,
I was going to say, I think that sort of the most interesting part of it is that, you know, you can like Thoughtseize, get a dude, and then like during their turn, hurt yourself, get a dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and just keep kind of building this huge chain of guys.
Yeah, or when both players don't have a lot of resources left, like hitting you with a Mutavault is kind of scary. You know, like every time you get hit by a Mutavault, you get a guy, and so that's like a pretty awesome thing about this. And but the greatest thing about this card is that there's, pain lands in this set. So you can just take 1 damage to do this, as well as like this feels like a card that could be good in a Sphinx's Revelation Shell. It like beats demons really well.
Wow.
I mean, Elspeth probably is just better, but I do like this card, and I don't know where I'm going to see it or where it's going to go or what it should do, but I feel like there's potential, and I don't know where it's at. Maybe Afara. I think probably this is just a card for Afara.
Probably, but I mean, the fact that Painlands now exist is actually really cool with a card like this. It gives it a whole different angle of like, oh yeah, like there's no mana burn, which is why this card would have been insane with mana burn. But instead, you're like, I'll just ping myself and get a dude, and hurt myself and get a dude. Yeah, or they'll attack me and I'll get a dude. Like, it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, this card looks really sweet. I want to try to break it, and it'll probably lose me a lot more games than it'll win me.
I think so. It's one of those where you go, I'm trying to break the 4-mana enchantment that gives me a 1/1 if I get hurt.
I mean, let's be
you just heard the words come out of your mouth.
Come on, I don't want to just like play an Elspeth and make 3 guys and then just win every game.
I know. We have to work for it to be really clever, really cool. First response is sweet. I like the fact there's another one in black that we'll get to that's kind of like the mirror of this. Super sweet, where you get +1/+1 counters. Geist of the Moors, 3 mana, 3 power flying is playable and limited every time. Just not close. Just play it. It's just amazing. It's like first pickable, evasive monster that will kill them.
Yeah, this card has been printed in a lot of different colors. Not the exact card, but I mean, almost every color by now has probably had these stats almost. And 3/1 for 3, it's perfect.
It's great. It'll never see constructed, but it's a limited all-star, and that's okay.
Yep, not going to see constructed.
Yep, the end. Grind Clock. Now, this brings up the interesting story, the interesting interaction I had with Mr. Matt Sperling, which he was explaining, like, why are you making people do math problems when they're playing Magic? And I'm like, Matt, no one does math problems but like the echelon of echelons, the algebraic, well, I can, in 4 turns, I'll do this, and then I want to count his library, and it's going to be, all right, great. No, people just have fun. People literally just have fun with cards. They don't care until you're like in like single digits. No one's going to be doing this. No one's going to be calculating the formula of what grind clock turns you have left. They don't.
So this card also is funny because I played at a pre-release, and one of my opponents was playing grind clock back when it was in Scars, right?
Yeah.
And he tapped it for put a counter on it, and then next turn at the end of turn he's like, all right, mill you for one. I'm like, no, I think you want to put another counter on it. And I was just like helping the guy out. It's a pre-release, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, hey, you just want to put a counter on it. And he's like, no, because I don't want you to draw your bomb. I don't want you, and then I'm like, all right, I'll just let you do this. Yeah.
I know, I love it. It's because like, there's the creature we're going to get to in black. It's the 3 mana 3/1. It mills you 3 when it enters the battlefield. And people are like, I don't really like that because then it's going to mill away my best card. And it's like, all your cards are random. That's the point. Yeah. It can mill away 3 lands you were about to brick on. Like,
you never want to get into, like, I just remember when I was testing with like Raptor and Matness, they would spend hours talking about how loots work. And it's like, like depending on if you don't know any cards in your deck and how many, like if you have 0 cards in your hand, when are you supposed to loot? Or when you have 1 card, when are you supposed to loot, when you're not? And this seems like the same thing. Like you just, put a couple charge counters on it, figure out the math if you're playing limited. Like, but it's really easy. It's not that big of a math problem. It's like, by the time you get to the 4 charge counter on it, a deck's going to probably have like 24 cards. So you either like have 6 turns or you put 1 more on and it's 5 turns. It's pretty easy to figure out.
It really is. A, it's not that difficult. But B, no one sits around doing math equations when they're playing Magic for fun. And C, it's a fine card. It's going to be really good and limited. You'll want to protect yourself, get some walls, build up some charge counters, mill your opponent out in a few turns. It is possible. It's just funny to me that, someone who plays on it at a super high level, sort of can't imagine a world where you don't play at that level, where you don't do that equation every time. It's like, just don't. They just feel like you're about to draw your thing, so just mill you 1. It's like, and that's okay. What I mean? Like that's a fine way to enjoy this card, but it's just the fact that not everyone is going to super spike it.
Yeah.
But good and limited, super good. Never see constructed as usual. Helios Pilgrim. I am really excited about this card. Wizards rarely, and I mean rarely, ever says go search your library for a thing and put it in your hand these days. Like it's extremely rare.
And it's usually just a land.
Right.
And it used to be on the stats of a 2/2 for 3, where you'd search for a basic put in your hand. Now they even made that a little worse, where you have to like for 2 mana you might hit a land, you might not. Now they're just giving us auras in our hand. Like I think after Theros Blast, they're like, we like auras.
Yeah,
and we're gonna keep doing this.
Let's just put the gas all the way in. Let's just do it.
And I'm fine with it because they're very good. I like how this card doesn't get broken with all the bestow. Like the first time I saw this, I was like, I can go get Boon Satyrs, and I was like, no, I can't.
No, because they're creatures until you're bestowing and then become auras. Then, so you can't go get bestow creatures. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. But it doesn't matter because the ability to go find exactly what you're looking for in aura form, put it in your hand, card advantage, still a 1/2. Like it's funny because at the time, no one respected Stoneforge Mystic. And I'm not saying this is Stoneforge Mystic. I'm saying that like that type of effect was not really respected. Now, of course, it took Batterskull before it sort of went totally off the rails. But, there was a point in time when like all you were getting was Basilisk Collars and, whatever. And I think Helios Pilgrim. Yeah, like Helios Pilgrim's a thing. Like maybe they'll print like a stupid, crazy good aura. There are already some really good, stupid auras in here. But maybe they'll print an even crazier one in cons that lets Helios Pilgrim go nuts.
Yeah, but I mean, right now, like you can even look at Magic right now, and you're like, yeah, sure, it goes and gets like Unflinching Courage and all these like enchant creatures, but it's auras, Underworld Connections, Chain to the Rocks, like all these things are real permanents.
Oh man, going to get a Chain to the Rocks has to feel so good.
Like it can go get card advantage, it can get removal, it can get enchant creatures if you want them, it can go get pacifism still. Well, it's still in standard, like that's a real thing.
That's so cool. Again, the fact it's not just a creature aura or an enchant creature aura. It's just an aura.
It can go get Encrust. I think it's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
And I've maybe spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to turn a Darksteel Citadel into a 5/5 and attack people.
Oh my god! Turn it into the big magic scissors.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the card that I've worked
you're
on.
talking about In-Soul Artifact.
Is it In-Soul Artifact?
Yeah, Encrust is the one that keeps them tapped and does them untap.
I'm thinking of the Scissors Artifact card.
Yes, the big scissors, we'll get to them tomorrow. It's all very exciting. I'm way more excited about Chain to the Rocks than I am turning something into big scissors.
I like me some artifacts.
You would. Trading post.
Tezzeret.
Yeah, this is sweet. I think this is super sweet and limited because it lets you go get your best aura card. It makes all of your other aura cards better, like we were talking about with the Divine Favor. So lots of play in this one. Super exciting card. And this, to me, it's just like a good old white common,
Yeah, and that's why I think a lot of the auras in this set were decided based around this card. Like I think that this card was toyed with for a long time, and why we see Battle Mastery add uncommon, and how Divine Favor is going to be popular, and a lot of the other enchantments in this set. Like they seem like they have weird casting costs compared to everything else, but it's all based around Helios Pilgrim because this card is going to be super powerful in limited. This is a card you're going to see get cast against you a lot.
Oh, yeah. So good. I love it. It's like drawing, it's basically 3 mana, 1/2, draw a card, but draw exactly what you want. And you can draft around it and include a silver bullet for just this purpose and yada, yada. It's great.
And the body of a 1/2 is not going to fight that much, but it's going to allow your bears to attempt to trade up to their 3/3s. It's going to jump on with another creature and block a lot of times. And even if they play a trick and they 2-for-1 you already got a card out of it.
Right, you still got advantage. Like this card, so sweet. Just another example of an awesome card. Speaking of awesome freaking cards, we're going to be doing this like the whole set
This
review.
Entire set review. Yeah, like, all the cards are so good.
So good, because this card is like, you know what, Birthing Pod? No, not going to do it.
You go way too deep. You go too deep, sir.
This looked like a scalpel that they made so they wouldn't have to ban Birthing Pod in Modern. Because Birthing Pod is the best thing to do right now.
Yeah, but like didn't you already have Aven Mind Sensor?
You did, but you need the other half of it. And this is, so you now have 8 bullets that make them suffer.
I think that this card was for other reasons.
Oh, what's the other reason?
Well, I think that a Modern format where the best deck is filled with like 30 creatures is a good format. Everyone's like, ban Storm, ban Control decks, ban all this, and then we get to a deck with 30 creatures in Birthing Pod, they're like, ban it, I don't care anymore. Let's go back to a world where everyone just plays control and combo decks.
I know. Something has to be the best. But I love it when Wizards is like, that's fine, that's the best, and here is the,
I think this card is insane against like all the cards in standard. Like it stops Master Waves and Grey Merchants and Lifebane Zombies and Perforoses and Trostani, like all these cards, it just blows out at a flash. So you can hold mana up and do this, and like that's huge. That's significant against like mono black deck, if you just have this card in play, it's a 2/1 flyer, so it's going to deal some damage, and they can't Grey Merchant you out or stay in the game because of it.
Sure.
Same with like a Lifebane. If you ever like respond to a Lifebane zombie with this card, they don't get to see your hand, they don't get to do anything. Master Waves, which is like one of the hardest cards for a Selesnya deck to deal with. Right. Now you just have an answer to deal with them, and you have a way to like, you know, trade with their flyers when you need to. The body isn't as relevant, but the ability is insane.
I mean, it's still a 2-mana evasive flyer, or a 3-mana evasive flyer.
I mean, against mono blue, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, well, because you got your Judge's Familiars and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, remember to play this while the card is on the stack, not when the card is in the battlefield and the trigger's on the stack, because then you're just screwed. So, you know, they say Master Waves, and you say,
Just 1 second.
Yeah, just a moment. You know, hi. And then they read it, and they go... and then they have that sadness moment. Sadness is on the stack, and then sadness resolves. And you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what this kind of card does. It is there to stop annoying things, overpowered things, and it sort of puts a stopgap on the format of incredible enter the battlefield triggers.
Yeah. No, I think this card's great. When I saw it, I mean, everyone was talking about Modern, but I think it will see some standard play, especially with all of these super powerful come into play abilities that are in right now.
And so, and kind of ironically, it's good and limited. I mean, you know, it's an instant speed Windrake, which is fine. It's not. It may impact your limited games, but sometimes just won't do anything.
There's not a lot of come into play abilities in this set,
right.
But there are a few.
Yeah, which it might hose maybe, and that's fine. It's just, again, this is a card for me that's a constructed card. It was made by the development team to do certain things. It's able to hose all the right stuff. Love it. Just terrific. Kinsbell Skirmisher, bears with upside are always playable and limited.
Yes.
The end.
This is great. You're going to want to play it like on turn 3 or 4 or when you have double. So the more 2-drops you have, the more this card gets better because you're going to play a different one on turn 2 and then on turn 3 maybe a 3-drop or another 2-drop. But then when you can double cast your spells, like you're going to want this card in the hyper aggressive decks. Like when you're trying to go beat down, this card gets a lot better.
Yeah, in a sort of world where you're playing the tempo deck and you're trying to 1-drop, 2-drop, and then play, never play this on an empty board unless you have to, because you're not going to get the value out of it. But if you do, I mean, again, your 2/1 flyer turn becomes a 3/2 flyer or whatever, allows you to trade up. All of a sudden, 3 power can take out creatures that are 4 or 5 mana, whereas your 2 mana guy just couldn't. So the Skirmisher was doing amazing things in Lorwyn, and it's still going to be doing amazing things here.
Yep.
Super cool, non-constructed. It's okay because bears with upside are awesome. Marked by Honor is like, this is a sweet one to get with Heliod's Pilgrim.
Yep.
Like, not playing around. This is what I want to go find. And it's common. Like, it's a good card.
Yeah, I mean, +2/+2 in Vigilance is a great ability. It gets around a lot of the removal, like I said earlier. And Vigilance seems very good right now.
It's certainly in this format. Again, at this point, the best we can do is really kind of look at the spoiler and take a look at the past formats that we've played and the things that we're used to and whatever. But at least in this one, Vigilance be able to just be like hit you and be able to block anything you come back with, any tricks you're able to pull as a result is very powerful. And the ability to go find it with the Pilgrim is just wow.
Yeah,
and it's common.
Yeah, it's common. It's going to be one of the cards you're gonna want, like 2 of these and 1 of your Divine Favors when you want to go get it with Pilgrim. And I don't really know all the tricks you're going to have with Marked by Honor, but there's definitely some creatures that you're going to want to put this on.
Yeah, but don't go crazy with it. Don't play like 3 or 4 copies of this thing. Like you don't want to go nuts with it. But 1 copy's good, 2 copies probably pretty fine. Any more than that, you might get a little iffy.
Yeah, but this is the kind of card that if you, after sideboarding against a deck that doesn't have a lot of removal, it's going to be very good because Vigilance is super strong because the decks without removal are probably trying to just bash you and stuff like that.
Yeah, and when your creatures are bigger than theirs by default and yours can attack and block with no drawback, like high five.
Yep.
Up next is Mass Calcify. It is the 7-mana spell from Shadowmoor, as I recall. Yep. And that was a set that was very much about colors and hating on certain colors, and these colors are bad, these colors are good, and it destroys all non-white creatures. And sometimes that means you can have a white and a blue creature, which it would still destroy. That's not really the issue here.
It wouldn't destroy those creatures, would it?
It would if it's technically non-white. It's still,
well, but it's technically white.
Well, right, but.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I'm not sure anymore.
No, any creature that was half white would still live.
Yeah, fair enough. So, either way, the question always is, like it's kind of a one-sided wrath, but only if your board is set up correctly, only if you have 7 mana. You know what I mean? Like, so there's kind of some hoops that you have to jump through, and then Mass Calcify is good. So, I'm not super high on it. Like, it's good in sealed probably at best. For me, because you're slow enough to get to 7 mana, and you might have a white bomb or some white creatures that you won't lose automatically to. Obviously sucks when you run into the other white player. You know, the other, you're just like, oh, your board's better than mine. This Wrath sucks. So
your board's worse than mine. It's still bad because I can't capitalize on it.
right. So you're like, oh, I'm going to wipe out a bunch of my guys as a result of this. Like, So, I mean, Wraths are good in limited sort of generally, but sort of very specific Wraths that are even more expensive than your average, it starts to get a little weird. It starts to get warped, and it doesn't start to do what you want it to do. So it's not like a first pick in draft. It's not always an inclusion in sealed, depending on how your deck looks.
I'm pretty sure that if I am going to draft white or play sealed white and I have Mask Elfify, I'm playing it every time. Because as long as I'm not playing against a white deck, I get to Wrath them, and I get to keep a creature or two.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, again, it only really burns you when you play against another player with plans.
Yeah, then you can board it out.
Yeah,
or discard it to Pack Rat. I'll use that argument for everything.
Yeah, just discard this card. It's amazing.
Discard to Pack Rat, it's fine.
Great, that'd be awesome. All right, next. Meditation puzzle.
Go.
Wait. I solved the puzzle. It sucks.
It's so bad.
It's terrible.
Like, they started like going with like Heroes Reunion. I'm like, oh, they're making life gain more powerful, and then they just snap it back. They're like, nope.
Nah. It's okay. I mean, again, this is one of those, it's a skill tester. People have to learn. You're like, oh man, I can convoke this.
It can be free.
It's instant speed. I can end of their turn gaining life. Like, just don't. There's better ways to gain life. There's a million ways to gain life in this set. This to me, again, it just cracks me up. Bad cards needs to exist. It's okay. Solve the puzzle. You can solve the puzzle too at home if you want to. Try it out. You two will see the answer. It's okay. We're so used to this. We know how bad it is.
Yeah, this card's awful.
Don't ever play it. Midnight Guard.
Oh, I miss this guy so much.
He's neat. He was a good old-fashioned, like, Herloon Minotaur-esque kind of dude. You know, he's just a 3-mana 2/3. Sometimes he has vigilance.
And with combat tricks, though, you're able to attack, and then they're not going to be able to block him because you have pump spells, and then you play something, and he untaps, and now your Convoke's still on.
I was about to say, he's really sweet in a set with Convoke.
Yep. And that's definitely probably one of the reasons why he's here.
Absolutely. Which gives him, again, more gameplay options. And that, to me, is why this set is so neat, because all these cards have just these little tiny synergies, and even if they don't get all the cool synergies, they're just kind of neat on their own. To be able to just be like, oh, you played a guy, untap, and they're like, oh, I forgot that, it was any creature, and you're like, sorry, One of those things you need to pay attention to your own triggers to be able to get the most value out of them. Super cool. I like it. He's a middling kind of limited card, but he's okay. Oppressive Raise. I mean, we kind of call this unplayable, and I saw some people playing it
We're never wrong.
I know we never are.
Never are.
Never. Is it from Born or Journey? I can't remember.
It was the last set, Journey.
Okay, Journey. Yeah, and we were like, blah, blah, you're never going to play this. I saw it do some work. It wasn't unplayable. It was just.
I think it's a really high pick now, and I take it a lot. And it's one of DVD's favorite cards. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, there you go. Well, because
for example, he played 7 copies of this in combined total in his last 2 drafts in GPDC.
Wow. Well, there you go. So, again, I saw it when I saw it actually in play, I was like, oh man, that's doing some real work,
I just want you all to know that if I was right all the time, I would just be working at the stock market right now. I don't really.
We would be hedge fund managers. We would be bajillionaires. It'd be awesome.
Yes. Sometimes I'm wrong.
Sometimes.
But not much.
We were wrong. Play this limited.
Yeah, this card's very good. Well, it's probably not as good in this set because.
Sure.
Now we're going this,
now we
this
go.
road.
Well, it's not that good.
Well, it was very good in Theros block because of how aggressive the format was and how bestowy it was and how much mana things cost.
Sure.
And the aggressive decks were very aggressive, like the heroic decks. It depends on how fast this format is, but I mean there aren't a lot of 1-drops that you're going to want to play in this format.
I mean, for me, I've certainly noticed that there's so much aggression in white, there's so much tempo in blue, and this is a perfect card for that deck. When you're in white blue tempo and you're playing Kinsbell Skirmishers and you're playing your 2/1 flashes and all this other stuff, and you just need to be like, all right, you want to pay 3 mana to block with that guy? Fine by me. Like, let's go. So that type of thing really works. And again, we were a little wrong.
Yes, we were.
It's okay. Not constructed, but limited. It's pretty sweet. 3 mana 2/1. Play it limited.
Yeah, we've had this card since what? Future Sight?
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah, Future Sight when we first saw 3/1 for
Blade
2.
Blade of the Sixth Pride.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And then ever since then, Everset's had one because they're good.
It just blew the minds of people playing back then. Yeah. Like Blade of the Sixth Pride was like, what are you doing? 2 mana 3/1. This is crazy. But of course, with 1 toughness, it's fine. But it's also super, super playable. And we'll get to that a little bit more when it comes to red, which has a lot of they can't block or don't block and first strike, which just makes this guy super awesome. Red, white, aggro decks, like this is your card for sure.
Yeah, this is one of the cards you're going to need to be aggressive. And he just punishes people for just being slow. Like if they only have a couple 2-drops and they don't find them in the early turns and you're on the play, like if this comes down on turn 2, sometimes it can deal upwards to 6 damage without you having to interact with your opponent.
Yeah.
It just hits them before they get on board.
This is one of those, if you kept a bad hand, he will punish you the most.
Yes.
You're like, oh God, I'm going to take like 12 damage from that thing. Like you just can sometimes. It's awesome. Paragon of the New Dawns. Here's our first Paragon.
Yeah, the Paragons, when I saw them, it's really unique to have a color anthem in each color with an ability. It was just unique to see that.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
We've never really seen anything quite like it. The activated abilities all kind of vary. You know, the blue one giving flying is pretty amazing. The red one giving haste is pretty fantastic.
Vigilance is about as boring as it can get.
But if you've got like a 3/5 or something, and you're just like, get you. I mean, or it's a 4/6 at that point. Giving it the ability to attack and be able to block on the way back when you just have a 2/2 that you're not probably going to attack or block with because you want to ensure that you always get a bonus, then seems okay.
I'm mostly curious about how these are going to impact limited. Like,
Yeah.
what happens when I'm really, like, I don't know yet, especially since this is the format that's going to be the Pro Tour. That's on my mind. And, you open a Paragon and you're like, do you just, like, Windmill Slam them? I don't know what you do with them. Like,
Sure.
Like, because they're really good if you get into those colors and, like, that one guy's going to have that busted deck where he just, like, took a white one and got past a white one.
I was going to say, you got 2 of these things, like, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and then you're just all in, because Anthem effects are very powerful and limited, especially for an entire board, if you have decks with 17 or more creatures in them.
I mean, the fact that there were so many token makers in white particularly, or in colors that, like green, white, or whatever, like not so much the green, white, but just the white. But there's plenty of token makers in white, and the ability to pump all of them, basically just, 4 mana get you, and then my raise the alarm guys are 2/2s, like that's important. And
But
that's powerful.
these cards get way worse when you're like multicolored or when you're just like 50-50 of both colors too, and like 8 of your creatures are white and 7 of them are green. It's not as powerful. So I don't really know what they're going to be like in limited. Definitely your sealed pools for the pre-release and the release events. You're going to know
And
what you're supposed to do with them.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it depends on the makeup. In the 50-50 splits, you're just like you're gonna draw the wrong half of your deck. You're gonna be like turn 4 Paragon and then like green guy. I'm an idiot. But at least you can give. Well, no, you can't even give another creature, just another white creature vigilance.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yep. Oh, there's some sadness.
These cards are very colorist.
Yes.
Is that it?
Ooh, a new word. Nice. Pillar of Light. Sort of like Reprisal, but the exile version.
And I like this version of it too because it's toughness and not power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is sweet.
I think that's a lot better because when creatures have like high power, sometimes they're more easily killed. They're like they're not crocodiles, but they usually have toughness when they're bombs.
Right.
But now you can hit cards like Courser Krupix, even though like pretty much every removal spell hits Courser Krupix.
Including enchantment removal and things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, particularly in limited, like this is a huge limited, awesome card. You'll play it every time. You'll first or second pick it, no problem. It will do good things for you. It will remove bombs. It will remove huge blockers that are getting in your way. Particularly if you're the aggro deck, you're playing the 2 mana 2/2s, 2 mana 2/1s, and they play like the 1/4 or the 1/5 or whatever it is, some sort of wall that they have, and you're like, yeah, no thanks, no wall of ice or whatever it is. Wall of frost, I think, is in this one. But so that's where this gets really, really good.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I was going to say, don't play this as a control card. Play it as an aggressive card.
Absolutely. Now, constructed.
Probably not. Not for now. Like, we already have Reprisal. We have good removal. We have Banishing Light for a year. So, for now, I don't think that this card will see any play.
Now, but in limited, awesome. Yep. Preeminent Captain. Now, this is a fine creature in limited just as a 3 mana 2/2 first strike. Doesn't always give you a free soldier. But when it does, that's awesome, and it basically made mana at that point. It's giving you a bunch of mana.
And, I mean, this card could see some constructed play. There are some really cool soldiers right now. There's a ton of soldiers, actually.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite is Lavinia of the 10th.
Oh, wow.
Just being able to attack, detain,
Right.
and get all your damage in that turn.
Yeah, and you still get, it's put it into play tapped and attacking. Like, you get
Yeah.
all the bonuses. Basically giving that, it's giving you all of the mana, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
and it's giving them haste at the same time, and any enter the battlefield triggers. Like, there's a whole bunch of upside to this if you can make it work. And if you can't, again, in limited, a 3-mana 2/2 first strike is okay.
Especially with all the enchantments and enchant creatures.
Yep, any boost you can give it is fantastic. Even with the Paragon, all of a sudden it becomes a 3/3 first strike. You can give it vigilance, and just get you. Like, it can trade way up at that point.
Yep.
So, card is sweet. Raise the Alarm. Yay! I love this card.
It was so good back in the day. I loved it. I wish there was more of a theme of soldiers, but there kind of is. There's enough in the set.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, obviously there's a Preeminent Captain and some others we already saw, but this is a very white card. It works perfectly with Convoke. I mean, it's just, it does all the right things. It saves you from like a huge alpha strike, and you're able to make chump blockers. I mean, Raise the Alarm was always a terrific card, and I love the fact that it's back.
Yeah, I mean, it has the Grizzly Bear stats, and because you get 2 tokens out of the one producer, like you can block a 2/2 with it, you're fine. Mm-hmm. It sometimes gets through damage, but mostly you're going to need some boost, a Paragon, to make it way better in limited. But it's not a bad card.
It might get there in Constructed.
Maybe. Constructed's pretty good right now.
It's going to need the right,
Yeah.
This is one of those that's going to be super themed, and it's going to need a bunch of tokens, and it's got to be on the curve. And when all those things fall in the right place, Raise the Alarm might be in the conversation. But that's okay, because as a limited card, doing all the things that M15 is wanting to do is just perfect. Beautiful. Fantastic. Razorfoot Griffin,
What? You're just bored of it.
he's so, like, it's just,
He's a first strike flyer, 2/2 for 4.
like 8th edition, and before that it was...
All right, don't listen to
remember.
Evan. Evan is just bored
I'm just
of this
an old
card.
man.
He's just seen it too many times. It's not exciting to him.
Get off my lawn, Razorfoot Griffin. Oh,
This card is fine.
the card is fine.
It's not going to be that exciting. It blocks. It is a problem your opponent will have to solve before they can continue to attack you.
Correct. If they have any, 2 toughness creatures or whatever, and the only time they'll attack into it is if they probably have a trick or they're just trying to totally, mind game you out or whatever. But it's fine. It gets a lot better with enchantments. Divine Favor turns this into like a 3/5 first striking flyer that gained you life when you played the aura. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying I'm not. And I'm not saying it's unplayable. I'm just saying it's a little pedestrian.
Especially for such a sweet core set.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's one of those, it's like, if this is the most we kind of harp on it, like, why couldn't it have been more interesting like every other card
Why
in
couldn't
the
the
set?
flying common for 4 have more than 2 abilities? And flavor text. This is just
so
too boring,
spoiled.
wizards.
So spoiled. Now, this card, Resolute Archangel, is sick.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, this is actually a very powerful ability. Like, this messes up games, especially, like, think of it with, like, Convoke or with Court of Calling even.
Yeah.
Or just a control deck. Just resetting. Pretty much what this says is you're going back to 20 unless you're playing multiplayer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about Constructed. It may be sideboardish, but in Limited, just huge. Just a monster bomb. You're going to go from, like, 3 to 20, and the game is going to be over for your opponent.
Well, we've learned in Constructed, at least any of you that watch Versus videos, that gaining 100 life doesn't win you a game, so I don't think gaining 13 will.
I mean, it's one of those you're going to need to kind of pull it out of the back pocket or something. It's unlikely, but that's okay. And in Sealed, this thing is a monster bomb. In Draft, it's still very, very good, but you'll need to do some stuff on the curve.
No, not really.
Probably draft more of a
I don't
control
think so.
shell even.
I don't think so. I think this card is a bomb in both limited formats.
Wow.
Because, the reason for it is like when a card like this for 7 mana is very resource heavy because you need to have the 7 lands, and sometimes drawing that many lands will kill you in certain games of limited. That's why 7 drops are so expensive. But this resets your life total, so it's not tempo. It's not like your opponent next turn will finally be able to use all their resources to kill you because you tapped out.
Right.
Like, you're going back to 20 life.
Right.
And if you get 20 life, they're not going to be able to alpha strike you next turn. So, this is way different than most 7 mana bombs.
The fact that it kind of pulls you back in.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the biggest part, because there are huge 7 mana bombs that are amazing, and they give you all these huge abilities, and there's this huge pump thing going on, and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but you were still dead to all these 2/1s. And it's like, well, no, not really. At this point, you've got to have huge angel, and you're back to 20. Terrific. Oh, awesome, super awesome. Probably not going to Constructive. That's okay.
Yeah, not going to be constructed. Johnny taught us that.
All right, fine.
Return to the ranks now.
That's a neat card.
This is my favorite card in the set.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, I love doing dirtily things. I love bringing back creatures from the graveyards. I love aristocrat-esque cards. And this is like the first one to come out that like seems bonkers. Now, the first thing I did with this card was just built a white weenie shell that kept attacking, and then you could bring them back. Wasn't that good.
Okay.
The next shell that I actually want to try is a Lot Troll shell, where you just get to discard your hand and bring them all back.
All right.
Yeah, you can like, if you play a 1-drop into a 2-drop, into a Lot Troll, on turn 3, if 2 of your lands produce white, you can put 3 creatures into play for the 3 men and the 2 creatures in play. You can discard 3 cards and put them into play. So I don't know. I think this card is really bonkers.
This card has a ton of potential, and there's so many cards like that in this set.
Yeah.
Where you read it and you go like, that's good. In the right scenario, it's going to be super crazy good, but it could just be absolutely unplayable and no one ever touches it. You know, like
this is not one of them. I will call shot this one.
I'm not saying it is one. I'm just saying that like there's so many cards in M15 that just fall into those weird categories, but they're all very exciting. They're all like, oh, this card is nuts. Like it certainly reads great. Return X creatures, like as long as their mana cost is 2 or less. Like I've seen people talk about this in slivers. There's the white weenie angle, and you know, I think that's super awesome.
There's even like the mini reanimator with Lot Trolls, Voices, Satyr Wayfinders, even Cartel. Like the version I built was with like Necromancer was the only 3-drop, and like Cartel Aristocrat. You like attack with your guys. Some of them might die. You get zombies, but then you sack all of them and get all the zombies, and then return them all to the ranks. And now you have like an army of zombies and humans.
Nice.
Yeah.
Super cool. Like this card is amazing. I want this card to do things, but I would not be surprised if it does nothing.
I would, and that's offensive, and we should go to the next card. I don't want to start a fight.
Oh, impressive race, bro. Sanctified Charge. This is a good limited card. It's not one you want a bunch of copies of, but like as a one of, it's going to be super sweet.
Yeah, it's fine. I only want it in white decks. Like the ability to give your team first strike is what's appealing. Your other guys get a bonus, but yay, it's not that great.
It's just okay. I mean, it's not something you're going to want to splash for. You're not going to be like, oh my god, I got to get this Sanctified Charge on my green-red deck. Like, no, you don't. Like, but if you're playing white-blue aggro or white-blue control or whatever, where you're able to give the huge boost and you're able to give all your guys first strike, raise the alarm, all of a sudden your guys are 3/2 first strikers. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and especially like those alpha strikes where once you hit 5 mana, you play this. Even if they're not dead, the way that they have to block to stay alive to play around this card means all their guys die to the first strike. So that's where this card is mostly powerful.
Right. So, I mean, it's good when you're on the aggressive side, but when you're on the defensive side and they don't really sort of see it coming, and all of your guys getting first strike and you're double blocking their soul that they got in their pool or whatever, like all that stuff is really important.
Oh, you do really just go for all the Magical Christmas Land.
Yes!
Yeah, when they're attacking with their soul and they don't have open mana to give all their guys +2/+2 for strike and lifelink. And
yay! Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Magic Christmas Land, toot toot. Get on the train. Selfless Cathar is a fine 1-drop. It's one of those where I think, we were like, 1-mana 1/1s are just always kind of but like this one seemed to do good work in Innistrad Unlimited.
Yeah. It did, and it's even better now, I think, with like how Magic is like, well, you have like Breemaz and you have like, in Limited it's fine. I could see it being like a one of in a constructed deck.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the white weenie decks are super powerful. It's human, so you could do it with Necromancer. You have a lot of the good creatures, like you have a Ajani now, so maybe you want more 1-drops. Like, like Dried Militan's just a Dried Militant. It's fine. It's just because it has an extra power doesn't mean it's going to do a lot of good things.
Well, I mean, but being able to take 10% of people's life total at a time versus 5% is kind of a big deal. I mean,
It used to be a big deal before everyone was just taking huge chunks of each other's life totals out early.
Well, until everyone got Savannah Lines, and you get a Savannah Line, and
Yeah.
you get a Savannah Line, check under your seat, there's a Savannah Line.
So now, I mean, you go to where you get abilities, and, being able to threaten +1/+1 alongside other tricks with a Breemaz is probably good enough.
Possibly, I just know that in Limited, the same is true. It's very difficult for you to block at that point when they're attacking with a Selfless Cathar and they have some other pump spell and they might have some other trick or some other onboard whatever. This guy just makes combat more difficult, which is why he's more than just a 1-mana 1/1.
Yep.
And we'll get to the lame 1-mana 1/1 later as just a 1-mana 1/1. Anyway, Seraph of the Masses. This is the white siege worm, if you will.
Yeah, and it's really cool.
It's super cool. It's super powerful. Great and limited. Like, it's going to be terrific. In the token-making color, like, it doesn't get much better.
Yeah, and this card, exactly shows new players what you're supposed to do. Like, this is not a card you want in a control deck. Like, you need the Convoke to be good with the ability.
Yep.
So where Siege Worm was just a guy that you could cast even if you didn't have a lot of resources, this guy you need a lot of creatures. So the most Raise the Alarms you have, you're going to play all of them if you have any Seraph of the Masses. And
oh yeah, I mean Raise the Alarm obviously again a great card. It gets even better here. this is kind of one of the saddest top decks late that you can have. You know, when you're like, all the board's clear, and you're top deck mode, and you're like, oh God, I paid
You just
7
tap
mana
your
for
7 mana, put it into play, you're like...
Because your opponent there is like freaking out, right? You're like, tap 7, and they're like, oh my God, 7? You're like, 1/1. You know, Narcomoeba stats go. Ugh, so sad. You know, it's okay, but you know, again, every creature you draw thereafter gets better and yada yada. But it is a sad little late top deck.
Or let's just talk about where you go turn 2 Razor Alarms, turn 3 Razor Alarms, turn 4 5/5. Now let's do that one because that's where this card is good.
Woo woo. Yeah.
Yeah. You go with you go with the pump spell. You're like, I'm gonna kill a slow with that, and you go with this uncommon awesome convoke card. And you're like, it's gonna be a 1/1. It's like, I don't know where you're at with these cards.
Look, man, I'm all over the place because you got to know there's the high ends and there's the low ends.
Yes.
I like the high ends.
Yeah. This card I think is a lot better and it will have way more high ends than the pump spell.
It sure will. Now, Solemn Offering is kind of bad. It's like the auras are pretty good in the set, which is a reason that it won't be like terrible, but there's a reason that it's basically sideboard only until you see those great auras.
Yeah, the reason that this card is really bad and why Disenchant would be so much better is because it can't blow your opponent out because it's a sorcery. So, you know, that's a huge difference. Like, being able to kill something when they attack and then block is like a 2-for-1 because you're only using the removal spell for the enchantment or artifact. But because it's sorcery, like the 4 life never really matters because we've realized as Magic players that the worst resource that we have is our life total. It only matters when we're dying. Or dead, actually. It only matters when we lose the game.
Well, you could say that. I mean, I like to think of life as a resource that you can, if not manipulate, at least sort of be aware of and try to control a little bit. This is sort of like regarding the tempo of the game. You know what I mean? Like, because, I'm at 12, and he's going to attack me back for 8. If he's got a pump spell, I might be at 2, but I'll be okay. I mean, that type of thing is
it's only relevant when you have other resources.
Yes.
Like, it's you'll sacrifice your life for bonuses and all the other resources until you're dying. Like, you would pay 5 life to put, 2 free lands into play on turn 1.
Yeah.
Unlimited. Like, that's just a thing. You would just do that. Or even 10 life, Because if you can get on the board faster than your opponent, they're going to lose a lot more life faster than that.
Sure. I mean, and that's where, one of my, I don't know how well it was known at the time, but there was a thought experiment that I kind of threw out at a Pro Tour once, which is there's a 1 mana blue instant that says draw 3 cards, and then pay some amount of life for those 3 cards. What's the most that you would pay for this to be playable in a constructed format? And there's V who's like, I'd pay 19.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous.
There's others who would pay like 5 or 6. I mean, that to me is a really interesting way of thinking about how important your life total is at any one given point. So, I don't know. Ultimately, it's basically saying that Solemn Offering's not that great. It's kind of bad.
It's fine. You'll board it in. You'll never main deck it.
Yep, just don't ever. Soul of Theros, my spoiler, ridiculous.
Yeah, this card is pretty sweet. And when the first time I saw Soul, I was just like, thank you that they're not the Titans. Because the Titans were cool and flashy, but oppressive. Because the abilities came into play. Now, the Souls are fun and cool and flashy because you need to work for them. Like, they're an investment. They're 6/6 for vigilance for 6 mana, which is great stats already.
Huge.
But now you have to invest more resources to make them better.
Yeah, but basically it means if you untap with this guy, he's completely unstoppable and your team is insane.
Yeah, well, this is probably the best one, too, for limited at least.
The only bad thing I could say about Soul of Theros is that it doesn't pull you back from a game that you were going to lose on turn 6. You know what I mean? If you go like Soul of Theros, go, and they go like, all right, Alpha Strike, you're dead. Like, it doesn't have lifelink, it doesn't have first strike by default, and that's kind of a thing. Lifelink is way more important, but I mean that's the only thing you could possibly say other than this thing is just being an insane bomb. It is ridiculous. Even if they kill it, you're like, whatever. Like, I get to activate ability. All my guys are Baneslayer Angels. Okay with this. Like, fine, sure, you got me. Like,
yeah, and huge life swings are big and limited, and this card is going to be one of the better. I think it is the best Soul in the format. Yeah,
it is completely ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how well I can build you up to the feeling of goodness that you will get in your soul of Theros as you play it. You saw what I did there? As you play it on the field, it is insane. Your opponent is just going to be like, "Oh my God! I hope I can kill it or I lose."
I mean, amazing. Yeah. And the cool thing about this card is most of the time when they kill it, they still will lose.
Yeah, they still like, oh, all right, well, then I'll untap, and then I'll pay 6 mana, and then all my guys are huge, and then I'll kill you again.
Yep.
Ta-da!
It's very good.
Soulmender is sweet.
It's
Again,
almost as good.
a Johnny's Pride Mate, dude. Soulmender into a Johnny's Pride Mate. That's the world I like to live in.
I like to live in worlds where I win games. Lots of them. Because when you don't draw the Pride Mate, this is not that good.
It's kind of terrible about the Pride Mate.
Yeah, it's not that good of a card. Gaining life for a 1-drop is not that impressive.
No, it's not, but it has really cool synergies.
Synergy.
E.
Yeah,
Fine.
synergy with the Johnny's Pride
All
Mate.
right, fine. But if you have two of Johnny's Pride Mate, this guy is totally playable.
Yeah, you can play 1 copy if you have 2 Pride Mates.
There you go.
You can't play 2, though. I won't
No.
let you play 2.
Well, is it a 2-to-1 ratio? So if I have 4 Pride Mates, I can play 2?
If I had 3 Pride Mates, I'd play 2 of this
But
card.
if I have 6 Pride Mates, can I play 3?
If you have 6, what's going on? Sure. If you have 6 Pride Mates, you can play as many copies of Soulmender as you want.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I need in my life.
As many.
All right. This card's pretty
Gonna
bad.
gain all the lives in the world.
Spectral Ward is really, really, really good.
Yes, very, very, very good.
Wow.
When I saw this card, I was like kind of blown away. Like protection from all colors is really good, and we've seen that on a lot of cards before. Like some cards where they almost have protection from everything, but there's not a lot of colorless ways to deal with things. So like, if this ever sneaks on a guy in limited, it's almost over.
Yeah, you basically going like, all right, what's his power? What's my life? The clock is set. Good luck.
Yeah, but in constructed, I even see this being a thing.
It might be.
Yeah, this is a very good effect. Like protection from all colors means it's never getting blocked. So if it has lifelink, it's just a huge race, and it just can be put on one of the huge like lifelinking creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And if they ever tap out and this slams onto one of them, I don't know how they answer. They have to answer the Spectre Ward first, so you don't get blown out unless you are targeting it with Spectre Ward and they kill it then.
Right.
That's the only time you're getting blown out with this card.
Yeah, the only time I'm guessing if you just enchant an enchant creature and they play it and destroy all enchantments back to nature.
Yeah,
which is in the set, which is interesting. But again, that's only of course in constructed
Yeah.
because you're not going to have enchantment creatures in the core set. But again, the fact that Helios Pilgrim is here and can get Spectre Ward, like I think that's going to be a thing because that spell is just incredibly powerful and able to go get one of the best enchantments they've printed in a long time. So wow.
Yeah, this card's very good.
Not much can stop it.
Except there's one soul. One soul brave enough to stop it.
Oh yeah,
Euphorexia.
Yeah. Euphorexia. Man, the souls are so sweet. And we'll get to those shortly. But Spectre Ward is a huge bomb in limited. Is definitely a possibility in constructed. I love this card. It's sweet.
Yep.
It's awesome. Spirit Bonds. Super cool. Thanks, Justin Gary. You gave us a really cool card, man.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know this was made by Justin Gary.
Absolutely. So when all of your creatures have kicker white, put a 1/1 in play, and then you have 2 mana sack that 1/1 to save any of your dudes. Like, card is a huge limited bomb. Like, just crazy.
I think this card's a constructed bomb.
I think it can work in constructed. I'm not saying it's like, I don't know if it's going to build its own archetypes, but I know that kicker, make a dude that can then save your dudes later is crazy good.
Yeah, I mean, in decks that like have abilities that you want to sacrifice, like with Virals, for example, like just being able to use those as resources to give it regeneration when you don't have the extra mana, or Cartel Aristocrat giving it protection.
Wow.
Like I think that this is the lingering souls I've been looking for.
They pushed this card.
Yes, this card is pushed. This card is going to be very good. This card lets you play very grindy games. So as long as you can get to the late game, this is going to have an impact on the game. So you want to build a deck around that. And I think that's where a Junk Aristocrats deck is going. And that's where one of the decks I'm going to be looking at originally in the set, just because of how powerful it is to have cards that give you resources. Also, this card allows you to double up.
You just can't stop yourself from building aristocrats in every
Are
format.
you kidding me? That's so good, though.
Aristocrats in every format!
Do you know how good this card is so good, though?
I know it's so good. It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that
let's just talk here for a
run
second.
it back.
No.
You're like, but cartel aristocrat.
Let's just talk for a second.
Let's just be real.
All right.
Real talk.
Do you want to Soldier of Pantheon make a spirit, or do you want to Cartel Aristocrat make a spirit?
I want a cartel aristocrat next spirit.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just saying.
The card is very good, but it doesn't have anything to go well with, and now it does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but only for a short time. About 3 months I've got.
Oh,
I've
man.
got 3 months to break this card.
Let's do it.
I'm going to. Well, it's going to be good after that, but I want Virals and Cartel to join forces one more time.
Oh, so good. I love this card. It's super sweet. And again, like we mentioned, in limited, it's amazing. Literally every creature you have at this point doesn't need to be a white creature. Just any non-token creature, anything you're playing from your
flying
hand.
spirits is very good and limited. Like those are just awesome.
By themselves, let's just make evasive power. It's so good. Save my guy. Terrific. Great card. Sungrace Pegasus. Another great card. I'm happy for a 2-mana 1/2 flyer with lifelink.
I'd rather pay 2 more mana to get 1 more power in first strike.
Oh, is that where we're going with
That's
this?
where we're going
I
with
knew where
this.
you're going with this.
Yeah, that's
You're
what
like,
I go for.
You're not happy with the first one, but happy with the second one.
I do like
new
that this is another Brian Brown doing card. It's like Squire got wings,
It did.
you know, but
too.
and some lifelink, but it's not that good.
It's okay. I mean, it gets a lot better. There's a lot of cool auras.
Yes.
Any auras that pump this, all of a sudden your life swing is going to get bigger and bigger. By default, it's going to be a 2-point life swing every single time it goes.
I feel like every single year we just change with these reviews. It's like before it's like, yeah, I mean you could put an aura, but auras die.
Auras suck.
And now we're like, well, they're great if we just put auras on it. Like people at home are like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to put stuff on things and make big battleships, or don't you?
Build a monster, don't build a monster. I don't know, man. I know that Frankensteins are powerful. I know that auras gotten a lot better. I know they've made a point to make auras not suck because they give you bonuses where when they enter the battlefield or they're just really super crazy powerful. I just know that at least over the past year or so, we've certainly changed our mind about how good auras can be.
Yes.
And Theros, I think, is a part of that. You know, that's an enchantment block. They want to make enchantments good. Enchantments are good. And so now we're like, yeah, enchantments are sweet, but enchantment on that would be really awesome. So I don't know. It's kind of 6 of 1, but you know, on your second turn, I'm not unhappy playing this in an aggro deck. Like I like evasion. I like the ability to pump it.
Yeah,
later.
I mean, if they can't block it, it's dealing the same amount of damage as a grizzly bear. And then once that grizzly bear gets stopped, you can keep attacking the air and gaining that life. But I would only board it in against decks that don't have flyers. I don't think I'd main deck this unless I had ways to get it through.
I guess it depends on how many your 2-drops you have.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like what's your curve looking like? I mean, you know, in a perfect world, you're doing Pegasus into Geist into the Paragon. You know, so that's Magical Christmas and blah blah blah. But any way to pump this card makes it a much better card than it is right now. Tireless Missionaries. I'm kind of tired of myself.
Yeah, I'm tired of this card. I've seen it before, and I've never wanted to see it again in my life.
Like,
it's really boring.
Because I looked it up, I thought it was like, is this like from Mercadian Mass or something? It's like, no, it's from like M11.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh. Like that's the rate we're paying these days?
What's the card from Vintage Masters? It's a 1/4 for 4 that gains 4 life. Taros Faithful or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, like that card. Now, why can't they just print that one? That one's way sweeter. It's better.
It is. I'm just like, what rate are we at here? This is one of those, it's bad because it needs to be bad. It's gaining you life, like we saw spoken earlier. There's a million ways to gain life with this set.
All right, so if you had 6 Johnny Primates, how many of these would you play?
Do I have to?
You got to.
Oh, God, like 1?
Exactly. This card is not that good.
Way more excited about Soulmender. Thanks. Yeah, this is not great. Don't play this unless you have to. It's bad. Triplicate Spirits, however, is insane.
3 dudes seriously. And it's insane now. Let's just
Brad,
revel in this.
A man can change, all right? We can make mistakes, can learn from them, can understand that when you poop over one of the best constructed cards that had come out in like the whole year at that point, you're going to hear about it for probably the rest of your life.
And I think I'm the only one still bringing it up.
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm not?
There's plenty of it.
Okay, good.
And it's okay. And I still bring it up because I like poking fun at myself because it's no fun when you go like, it might be good, it might be bad. That's the most boring thing ever. Like, just pick a side.
Yeah, except there's one.
I picked the wrong one.
After Burning Tree Emissary became one of the most bonkers cards ever, and we just hated on it, I've realized that, I've said this, I'll let you guys behind the curtain for a second.
Oh.
I've realized that in set reviews, if it produces free mana, I will say it's insane. Even if I don't know what it does, I'll be like, this card is broken.
Wow.
Free mana is good.
Constructed mana all. Constructed
And the last
all-star.
time I was wrong. With the 2/1 that when you target it becomes free.
Oh
or it's
yeah,
cheaper.
that guy. I never liked that guy. Remember, and I was like, I don't get it. Somebody tell me what I'm not getting. It wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
It was a cool card though, super cool. Triplicate Spirits, however, yes. 3 dudes seriously, yes. Spectral Procession says what's up, and yes, this is fantastic. I mean, being able to turn this out on turn 3 or turn 4 always feels good. It will always work for you.
Do you think so? See, I don't think it's that good.
I think it's insane limited.
See, I think
this
Convoke
is a first pick. Wow.
Convoke is an interesting ability unless you're not trying to attack or block. If both players are trying to build these armies, but you're supposed to attack and block. So like Convoke is best with tricks, defensive measures. If this was instant, it would be insane because you could do it on their turn. And that's the big thing. Like the sorceries that produce more guys through Convoke I always have these like troublesome things. Like, for example, it's in the set and it was before it was the overrun without trample.
Sure.
Like the problem with that card was if you're tapping your guys to convoke it, you're not attacking with them, and that's like the huge indicator of why convoke is bad as a proactive or putting creatures into play. Now, putting big angels into play, sweet, but like putting 3/1/1s into play is okay. I guess if you build the like paragons and all the things.
Look, man, I missed this train the first time. Not missing it this time.
That's what I was trying to do.
3 dudes are amazing. 3 dudes are
3 dudes, seriously, it's going to be constructed staple for all time.
No, hold on. Let's back up.
We're going to put it in birthing pod.
Oh, God almighty. We're going to play it in limited every time because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. Wall of Essence. Coming to Modern, baby. This was printed from like Odyssey or something.
Oh, wow.
This is like an old school card. And it's
really good.
It's anti-aggro. Like, I think this can see constructed play. Like, what's up, Mono Red? Attack.
Well, they will. They'll just madcap skills it or make it not block. I think they have a million ways to make things not block.
Maybe, but they still have to. They still have to kill it.
No, they don't.
Well, they either have to play a trick to make it not block, or they have to use some pump spell to kill it.
Have you read Frenzied Goblin? I know that you have not gotten crushed by Tom Ross in the top 8 of Invitational with Mono Red, but it is scary, and you think about it now. It still haunts my dreams. And that Frenzied Goblin, that I'm not happy that exists now.
Oh, God, it's so good.
Let's just say that I'm going to play more Golgari Charms.
Oh, my God. Frenzied Goblin is hot stuff, and we'll get to it in red. But Wall of Essence, again, it's pretty sweet anti-aggro. Like, you're going to gain some life off this. Yes, red has some tricks. There's green-white aggro. There's different types of aggressive decks. There's mono-green aggro. Like, there's ways that the white deck doesn't necessarily have to immediately go to Nyx Fleece Ram. And now that they have Wall of Essence. Yeah,
I think this card will not see any constructed right now. Even as a sideboard option, Nyx Fleece Ram is just a little bit more powerful.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is a very good Magic card. But this is not a bad limited card, and it will, especially in your flyer decks, because it's going to not only stop a creature for a turn, but it's going to stop it the next turn. Right. If it dies even. So like, and they can't attack. Like most walls just kind of sit and play, and the downside is they can attack with their whole team. Mm-hmm. But now with this card, if they attack, they can't attack with 2/3/3s.
Right.
Because you block, and that's going to invalidate the other 3 damage. So it's actually stopping 2 creatures. So they have to attack with a 4-powered creature, because even if it's a 4/4 and a 2/2 and they attack, you're only taking 2 damage.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's really sweet, and the fact that when you're playing sort of a white X control deck of any sort, this is the card for you. If you're playing a white-blue sort of skies deck, this is a card that is able to sort of sit on the ground and not let you get destroyed by some fat green monster while you're hitting them with wind drakes the whole time.
Yeah, and this is like old Lifelink too. The one thing I loved when I saw this is going to be like, you remember back before they changed how Lifelink worked? You were like, well, see, actually, that's a trigger, and you're dead now. And it's just going to go back to that with this card.
It is. You're going to hit them, you're going to attack with the 2/2 and the 4/4. They're going to be at 4 life, and then they're going to be like, okay, I'll block the 2/2, and you go, you're dead.
Yeah.
And they're like, but why? And you go, because the word whenever means you're dead. Because it's going to go on the stack, and then you're going to be dead before it resolves, so be aware of that. That's the thing. Still a fine card, though. Warden of the Beyond. Every once in a while, you're going to be able to get that to trigger. What was the different Reprisal? The 3-mana one we just looked at?
I don't remember the name.
I don't remember that. We're terrible names.
Yeah.
But the exile based on 4 toughness or higher, Warden of the Beyond is just every once in a while going to get that bonus, and it's going to be super sweet.
There's more things at exile. I mean, you have Devouring Light. No, that's
no, but you do have New Sliver.
That doesn't count either. I guess New Sliver, yeah.
You have the New Sliver, the Constricting Sliver, whatever it is. There's going to be a few times where this triggers or is on as a 4/4, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just as a 3-mana 2/2 vigilance is okay.
It's fine. It's decent. I mean, you could put enchantments on it.
I put enchantments on it. Maybe if it was 2 mana, you could talk about this in Legacy because it lives in a world, full of what? Come on.
It lives in a world of 2 mana.
Or maybe
creatures.
Modern. Give me Modern.
Come on, man.
Give me something.
Not in a format where Tarmogoyf exists.
Tell me how this could actually get there.
Into Legacy.
Well, all right, give me Modern.
All right, in Modern, well, if the ban list becomes as big as the ending credits of any show, maybe.
Fine.
Maybe.
Fine. Fine. You know what? Fine.
If we let Evan ban things in Modern,
don't let me
where
ban
he
things.
wants when he wants like Birthing Pod to be banned.
I'm saying that is the best deck, and they made something that fights the best deck versus just banning the best card in the best deck.
Yes, no, I agree.
So that I appreciate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to ban it. I'm saying I'm glad that there exists a sort of a
Yeah, I've always been anti-ban. Like I think that the game is a puzzle and we're supposed to break it. Every time they ban cards, I was like, did that really have to happen? Now, to be fair, the last time that they banned cards in Standard, like that was deserving.
Well, yeah, and it only happens every once in a while when they make some big mistakes, and that's okay. But anyway, to kind of bring this back around, Warden of the Beyond is okay.
But you're going to know, like, this is the kind of card that you don't really need us to tell you what to do with it, because you're going to know. Either you're going to be able to exile things or you're not, or Vigilance 2/2 is going to be good or it's not. Like,
or it's going to be on your curve, yeah. Or
yeah, it's a very obvious magic card. It combos really well if you can exile. If they do things that exile their own permanents, do it. I don't think there is anything in this set that really does that. I mean, if they're restocking, sure.
I mean, yeah, maybe. That's going to be hilarious, though.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, restock, go, and you're going to be like, 4/4 Vigilance.
It is really bonkers if you can like kill a guy to exile and then it gets the bonus in combat. Like, that's going to be really cool.
If you can.
And then it's going to turn on their ability to exile your 4 toughness, and then theirs turns on. Games get crazy.
Yeah, cray. Avarice Amulet. So, thank you, Penny Arcade, for the sweet card. It's a neat one. You know, it gets 2/0 and gets to draw cards and stuff. And
I say just they should go back to doing what they do.
It's okay. It's neat.
It's no hot soup.
Oh,
It's no hot soup.
It's no hot soup.
But I read this card, just like, this card's really sweet, and then it says, give it to your opponent. I'm like, what? No.
You're like,
why?
But it's mine.
Yeah, like this. We have eliminated all of these magic cards that do that. These are mine and those are yours, and they stay there and these stay here. And we pretty much eliminated cards that feel bad for casting. Now, sure, Nightveil Spectre allows them to take cards off the top of your deck, but it's not your investing mana. I don't want to invest mana and lose my stuff.
And then give them things. That's not okay. Now, you can invest mana to do like sort of a control magic effect or whatever where you take their stuff. That's different than where if the card itself is just like, see ya, bye-bye, not here anymore. It's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous.
And so a card like this I never want to play because, it's an equipment, and if they ever get it, you're going to need to kill their creatures, so you have to have more removal, and so you're a deck with an equipment that needs a bunch of removal, but also creatures to equip to. So, like, everything
if anything goes wrong with this card, it goes like terribly wrong.
Now, if there's a joke behind this on Penny Arcade, like, I don't know the lure of the card.
I don't either. All I'm saying is, it's like it's all good and you're having fun in the lake cabin, and then all of a sudden you're in Friday the 13th. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this card does.
I don't know.
It's like you're in a horror movie all of a sudden.
Oh yeah. Okay, got there. Can we do Cabin in the Woods? Freddy's too scary for me.
No, it's just I'm old and I'm talking about old 80s slasher flicks versus the new cool.
You're talking about the really scary ones, though. Like, I can't watch those.
Yeah, man. Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all that.
And now we're thinking about it, so now he's going to come to our dreams tonight.
This card's kind of bad. Brawler's Plate. It may be very fun in like a multiplayer format that we don't play. You know what I mean? Like,
no, see, they told us to stop doing that.
Oh, they did. They were just shut up, man.
Don't just...
Everything's good in EDH. It's good. No, sometimes it's just bad in all the format.
We'll just... Next card. Brawler's Plate. We don't want to upset them.
Now, see, this is a fine equipment. This is a cool equipment. This is good equipment. You will play. You will get plenty of mileage out of it. It's a little expensive, but the bonuses are real.
When they started adding power to creatures, they were taking away trample. They don't want trample to be that big of a thing like it was before. And so, we see like Vulpine, Goliath, or whatever have it. And that's a huge effect in a limited format, just getting that trample. So giving it to any creature is huge, and it changes the math of any combat phase. Like, how am I going to get this damage through, and how am I going to add trample to the equation? So I do like this card. I think that the stats should have been flipped. I feel like equipping for 4 mana is pretty expensive.
It's very expensive. I mean, they're making you kind of pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that. And you're kind of giving up 2 turns-ish. You know what I mean? Like, you'll play 1 drop, 2 drop, and then this, and the turn after that you get to equip. And so at that point, you're kind of on parity with power and toughness of what your opponent may be playing. So there's a lot of really cool, interesting design finesse or developer finesse, if you will, in terms of the way that those numbers are and how they'll actually play out. That's really cool to me. I like that sort of aspect of developing Magic cards. But the other half of just like, it's a good Magic card that will let you win games. Yes, awesome on anything with evasion, great with anything with vigilance, awesome with flyers. I mean, like it's terrific when you have a powerful equipment that doesn't do things like give it to your opponent.
Yeah.
Because something went wrong. You're like, oh God, I'm worse than I was to start with.
That equipment, actually going back to it for one more time, just like
Take that can down the road.
Like, you know how everyone's like, well, the argument of it dies to Doomblade is just a bad argument. I'm like, not anymore. Like,
oh, God.
This is a very relevant discussion.
Yeah, it dies to Doomblade and you lose it. Feel plus bad.
Yeah.
Feel bads. This card, however, is good. No constructed worthiness, and limited, it's terrific. You don't want to play a whole bunch of these because these are the type of equipment that can kind of glut you up. 7 mana, a whack.
I don't even know if 1 is the right number yet, let alone 2.
I have learned to not underestimate equipment. Even if it's just something like the creature's unblockable or whatever, you know, for 5 or 6 mana overall, like those things, they end games. And this is a card that does end games when you're in the weird stall outs where you're 3-4 versus they're 3-4 or whatever it is. Bronze Sable, good old-fashioned 2 mana 2/1.
I have had Bronze Sable in my sideboard many times, but that's mostly for a Blade Tuskboar.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of Intimidate in this set, so but they're good at that. That's what Bronze Sable's best for, is when your opponent is intimidating you, you just go get this cat, because he is not afraid of anything.
That's right.
Sable is a cat, right?
Yep.
Get this cat.
No, it's not.
It's not a cat?
It's a Sable.
It's a Sable? But isn't that still a cat?
What's a Sable?
Sable's a cat.
Looks like a cat.
It's a version of a cat.
I guess. Then why would it be a cat?
Because they wanted to use Sable.
Why they gotta do that to us?
Because wizards would like to use more words than like the 5 animals. Fine. What if they just call every like elk or whatever a deer? Like a Pegasus, they're just like flying deer.
Flying deer.
Number 6.
Yeah. I mean, there's the black Intimidate guy whose name I can't recall right now. It's the Blade Tuskboar in black. Which is perfect for this guy to block that card. This is another card that if you're super hyper aggressive, obviously you're going to want a bunch of these guys, and I've seen these played in very fast aggressive limited decks.
Yeah,
this is unplayable.
It isn't unplayable. It's a great like late pick for your aggressive decks or for sideboard option when you need to stop the aggressive decks. So don't underestimate them, but don't overestimate them.
Right. It's good, but it's not like, oh my God. It's like it's fine. Fine Magic card. Gargoyle Sentinel, I love this design. I think it's super flavorful, super evocative, terrific.
Yes, I liked this card when it came out before. It's great at just blocking in the early turns, and then later on it can block flyers or attack on its own. Yeah, I mean, it's no mana gargoyle, but
what is?
Yeah,
mana gargoyle.
I don't know if it's a mana or gargoyle.
Oh,
yeah, we're going with that old joke.
Man, just wheeling it out. And like flip on the chest.
Yeah.
Old joke comes piling out. Thanks. Great. Fine card and limited like it always was. Decent mana sink when you need to attack and block. It's good.
Yep.
Stab of the Sun Magic's not good. Don't play.
Nope.
They repeated the cycle. I'm glad they did. It's always interested me that staff of the whatever the black one is.
That did win a GP.
That did win a Grand Prix because it was great in the mirror, which is always interesting.
No, it was good against the mono burn deck.
Oh, was it the mono burn deck that was doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They boarded in because like...
Oh, versus like white-red or whatever?
The red-white burn deck.
Yeah. That's how they could beat that matchup because otherwise they were too slow. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's all I got.
And then my favorite thing was when I saw that, I was like, other decks are going to probably follow suit, even though it's going to be awful. And then I saw like a couple of the blue ones in the mono blue deck. I'm like, that's a good matchup. What are you doing?
Yeah. So here you are. Again, just not something you're excited about in any real format.
No, not even limited. Just
this is a new player card. This is a imagine how white gains life and that you can have a white deck.
Just imagine a world where all 3 uncommons in your booster pack when you're drafting were good. That'd be bad. Be too many good cards.
It would be too many good cards. I mean, when you have that problem, there's actually a lot of really good limited cards in this set, I feel.
Yeah.
And if all of them are sort of raised and all of them are kind of much better, that to me makes a more dynamic format. But of course, this is a guy who loves Cube, where like it's like the crazy end of the spectrum. Everything is great all the time. But when everything is just a little bit better, and that's what this feels to me. This set feels like everything is a little bit better than it normally is in a core set. Because there's so many white cards just now that we spoke about that have such possibilities and such power that a lot of times, it's like it's good, and then it's like bad, 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 and it's good, and it's like bad, bad, bad. There's a lot more good cards, I feel, on average in every single color in this set as compared to the rest. Not that one. Evolving Wilds is back.
Yeah, this is a great land. We've seen it in a bunch of limited formats. It's the perfect common land to help fixing, and I've always been happy to see it.
Part of me just wishes Wizards is like, yeah, we're bringing back fetch lands in M15.
We got one.
Wilds. See? It fetches lands. It's been bad.
We would riot.
Well, I mean, it got bad enough when, we'll talk about this later as well, where they were like, we're going to bring back Kurt Ape-esque creatures and then show a picture of a new ape.
Oh, I was
and
so mad.
Everyone is like, Kurt Ape, oh my God, freaking out. And then Pat Cox died a little inside, and everyone got really sad. And yeah.
I wasn't happy about that. I was freaking out on our drive back from Chicago. I saw the Kurt Ape art, and I was like, Kurt Ape's back, and I was thinking about
They never said it was Kurt Ape. I was never feeling it was Kurt Ape ever because Kurt Ape was just too good right now.
It would be very good.
It would be very extreme.
I thought it was it.
That's okay. Evolving Wilds, fine card. You'll play it limited almost all the time because you're 2 to 3 color decks anyway. Even better in sealed for that exact reason. Yeah. Probably not. There's so many good lands right now. There's almost no way this is making constructed.
Oh no, not a chance.
But it doesn't matter. It's a good card for what it is. It's great in casual formats. It allows you to use these cards in different ways, and it's just good and playable.
Yeah, I mean, just play it in your 2 color or you're splashing. Just always.
I like this card a lot.
Of course you like gaining life. You just love gaining life.
Dude, people played Kabira Crossroads back in the day. They did.
I know.
Did you?
I did.
You did. Yeah, you did. Okay. No, and now, I'm the guy who likes to gain life. Well, look, dude, gaining life lands totally worked when they came out and to play tapped. I have a feeling they'll be okay coming in to play untapped.
Yes, but when they added a color.
They added a color,
yes,
that's a thing.
That's a really important thing.
It is an important thing, but we're going to live in a world eventually that has no Mutavault in it. And Blue-White Control is not going to be against running probably 2 to 3 of this land just to shore up an aggro matchup that might get there.
We're going to be in a...
Well, we're not going to have Sphinx
We're not going to have Sphinx Revelation, so...
But we don't know what's in cons.
That's true.
Which looks to be the wedge set, which at least that's
the rumors are coming. I like to use block as foreshadowing.
Oh.
And Guillaume Wafutapa was not playing blue, so I don't know how good blue control is going to be.
Well, again,
come next year.
They give us another Sphinx's Rev and everything changes.
They give us another Sphinx's Rev, I will riot.
No, you won't.
I will.
You'll just play it.
I mean, we know that is not true.
I am so...
It took a year and a half for me to break down to play it.
Oh, God. That's just because you're stubborn.
Yeah.
Because the card isn't great.
Then I've top 8'd every tournament I've ever played Sphinx's Revelation.
That's pretty much how it works. This card's busted. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway, Radiant Fountain, all I'm saying is, would not be surprised to see constructed play. In Limited, it actually feels a little worse because it can mess up your mana base, particularly any 3-color build. You don't want a card like this. But, it's not unplayable. It's almost like a freebie at that point if it's a 2-color or 1-color.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like some weird mono white aggro deck, because there's a lot of cards that want to be just straight white.
Or a white-blue control or something that's control. This is a card that's colorless. It's fine. It keeps you in the game.
Yeah.
Which is what it wants to do. Oh, that means we're at the end of the white
That's
review.
day 1.
Oh, man. This is fun. This is a fun set.
I know. This set's
enjoying
exciting.
going through this.
And all the Ajani was probably one of the best and coolest cards in the format, or in the set, but the rest of the colors have some sweet ones too.
They really do. And they have so many different angles, as we were saying, there's so many different gameplay opportunities is what I love about this set the most. And I'm just excited to bring the rest of it to you guys, which we will be doing very soon. You come back, you check out the blue cards with us, which we'll be doing really, really quickly, because this is Evan Irwin.
Brad Nelson.
Tapping the cards.
So you can too. I mean, so you don't have to.
Sorry. Oh, God. I'm sorry. We'll see you next time.